We're doing the second section of our talk today. We're gathered today to do the mitzvah of Hafrashat Challah for beloved memory of Esther Bat Yehoshua, Haji Yeshua, and her mom's name was Senobar. So we're doing the mitzvah of making bread in honor of Shabbat. So the mitzvah of Hafrashat Challah, as we discussed before, in order for you to do the Hafrasha, to do the separation, you need to make 5 pounds and more. 5 pounds of flour is about 15 cups of flour, like 5 pounds. According to Harav Ovadia Yosef, it's about like 13 to 15 cups of flour. My husband says there's no mitzvah at the cost of Bal Tashchit. If you're doing a mitzvah, but not everything is going to go into use, this is not a mitzvah. Anything that you do, you have to make sure that it gets used up, not that it just, you just do the bracha, hafrasha, and who cares what happens to it. So how I usually like to do it, that we discussed with my husband, is that the hostess does the hafrasha and everybody else does a smaller portion. That way, the dough doesn't go into waste. One person says the bracha and has everybody else in mind. The mitzvah of hafrasha, separating the dough, we learned it from the book of Bamidbar. Whenever the Bnei Israel came into Eretz Israel, that was one of the first commandments Hashem gave to them. Because after 40 years of getting the man from where? Where did the man come from? From Shamayim. I don't hear you. From Shamayim. So the Bnei Israel going to the Midbar, going to Galut, for 30 days they had the matzah. The matzah was the unleavened bread. The matzah stopped. They were worried that they're not going. And what did they do? They complained, right? When you have confidence and connection with God, you wouldn't complain. You would know that I'm sure God has a masterpiece. If he was able to split the Red Sea, I'm sure he's going to give us food. But the Jews complained. 30 days later, the man came. Every day of the week. So then the man came for 40 years. But when they got to Bnei Israel, got to Israel, what happened? The man stopped. There's an opinion that this happened during Shavuot. This is why, the harvesting and like Pesach, it's like an interesting correlation. I'm not going to go into it right now. I'm going to try to stay focused. So the mitzvah of Hafrasha is that Hashem told Bnei Israel, when you come into my land, imagine after 40 years of just having to pick up the dough and make it, now they have to make the dough. Dough takes a lot of work. First, you have to plant the wheat, then you take the wheat, then you have to thresh the wheat, get the actual wheat part out, and then you have to grind the wheat, to be able to turn it into flour. Like, so much goes into it until you get flour. We don't really experience it now because we buy the flour pack ready-made. So after they made the dough, which is also a nice lesson, that Hashem said to them, what? After all this hard work, bring me the first portion as a gift offering, where the Hafrasha would go to the Kohanim, because they had no land to work on. So they would have to get their wife would get the flour and the dough from the wife of Israel. That dough that you would give to the wife of the Kohanim. This is so interesting. I mean, it is interesting to me because I love learning about it. The dough could not be shaped. The dough could not be baked. The dough could not have anything added to it. You had to take the dough, give it to the wife of the Kohen, and she would make it as she wished for her family. You understand the thoughtfulness? The dough that you would separate would be a portion like this, but you would not bake it. You would leave it to her to do as she wanted. And many people say, why? Why 5 pounds? Why do you have to do 5 pounds to say the bracha? Because my husband said the ones that had a lot had the obligation to give. But the ones that didn't have enough for their family, they didn't have the obligation to give to others. So the ones that had enough, they would give. But the ones that didn't have enough even for their own family had no obligation. So where do we learn the concept of saying hamotzi on 2 loaves of bread on Friday night? That's from the book of Shemot. Because when Bnei Israel came to the Midbar, as we spoke earlier, and the man started coming down, every day was 1 portion, except when? Friday. On Friday, it came double because Shabbat was a day of rest. And since you needed to rest on Shabbat, you didn't have to come out. You would take 2 portions. 1 for Friday, 1 for Saturday. 3,000 plus years has passed since that story. Every Friday night, Jews all over the world say hamotzi on 2. So even if you don't make 5 pounds or enough to do a hafrasha and you make a smaller portion, you tell yourself, I'm doing this for the lechem mishne, to say hamotzion, which is also a beautiful mitzvah of its own. So the smaller portion, I will also write it in the YouTube explanation. The smaller portion is we do 1 tablespoon of yeast. I like to start actually with this sugar. 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of yeast, 1 1/4 cup of warm water. You mix it in, and we're going to be doing it in a Ziploc bag. It's really easy in a Ziploc bag. It's warm. It becomes doughy very easily. And then we add 3 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 of a cup oil, and mix it in and let it set to rise. And for the 5 pounds, you multiply this ingredient by 5. So we're going to do the mitzvah, and when you take the bread home, you keep saying the name Esther Bat Yehoshua, and when they say the bracha and remembering her name, that's how we're going to tap into her spiritual credit line. Thank you so much for watching.